home of ODI Fridays. Thank you very, very much to the Cabinet Office who've allowed us to use this room today. And it's thanks actually to Olivia for clarifying. And we're really, really grateful for just having this extra room. Normally there's about 40 of us trying to cram into a much smaller room in our office. So welcome to anyone who hasn't been to one of these before. Where we normally run it, we have a lecture given by someone for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and then lots of time for conversation, questions, discussion. It will be about the same today. We have to be out of here by about 2 o'clock, so that gives you some sense of how the time is going to be. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you need the bathroom, just turn out left outside these doors, and then just through the double doors to your right. There won't be a fire alarm, as far as I'm aware. So if there is, we go straight downstairs and out the door. Simple. I should mention my name is Catherine Corrick. I'm the Training Business Manager for the Open Data Institute. So, delighted to have our CEO here today, Gavin, to talk to you about data as culture. The 2 hashtags that we're using for today are Big Data Week 13, which is BDW13, and ODI Fridays. Gavin, over to you.
Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be in this very auspicious room. My name is Gavin, I'm the Chief Exec of the Open Data Institute, and I'm going to just talk through today a little bit about the theme of data as culture, which has become a very significant, important part of our work at the ODI. I should say that the Open Data Institute is only 6 months old. We started on the 1st of October last year. We've had an awful lot of interest over the last 6 months, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through things. Hopefully this works. So, what's our mission? Again, apologies for the projection here. There seems to be a fault with the projectors. Can't quite see the colours. Our mission is actually to catalyse the evolution of open data culture. And these words are really important to us. I think when we first started, we had sort of finding the value in open data, which was meaningful to a certain set of stakeholders. But through a process of listening to people, looking at what's happening in the world, we actually changed our own mission statement to catalyse the evolution of open data culture. We use the word culture very specifically because it is for everyone. And we're looking at how can we create different types of value. How can we create social value? How can we create economic value and environmental value? And we're fortunate that one of our co-founders is Sutin Berners-Lee, who invented the web. And I think in terms of my perspective on where we are at, it seems very similar to mid-90s web, so 1995-ish. That everybody's really excited about a thing, but we're not quite sure what it is or how big it's going to be or how we're going to get there. But there's a lot of interest in an open web of data, not just the open web of documents. So this phrase that was written on Tim's original paper in 1989, which was vague but interesting, is kind of where we're at in the open data landscape a little bit. So when we look at what have we done in the last 6 months, so one of the first things that we did actually in our second week of operation was the Open Data Institute has interest from government, commercial sector, academia, but we're actually a non-profit. We sit outside of government, we sit outside of commerce, we sit outside of the academic world. And so I was thinking, well, what can we do that doesn't really speak to any one group, it speaks to everyone. So we launched an art commission. So we gave people a really generous 2 weeks to respond. We actually had 90 responses in those 2 weeks from over 20 countries. So we were completely overwhelmed by the level of interest. The theme of the commission was data as culture. And we now have 9 data-driven artworks sitting in our office, which act as the talking point for pretty much everybody. Over 2,000 people have come to our space in the last 6 months. And I'm going to talk through some of those works today. This is the first one. This is usually our starting point. It's a vending machine. But it only dispenses a snack when the economy gets worse. So when the recession kicks in, it dispenses a free snack. What it's doing is it's scanning BBC News for certain keywords and certain reference points, And when it finds those, out pops a snack. So you can't buy a snack, it's only when the recession gets worse. In the interim statement, it actually spewed out a lot, maybe 30 packets. After the budget announcement, it just dumped everything out. So everyone got a free packet of goods just to celebrate the strength of our economy there. And this work is currently sitting in our kitchen area in the office. I want to just kind of go back and say, how did we arrive at a culture that is so profoundly data? And I put up some images here that may resonate with many of you from your childhoods and beyond. Is that in the UK we helped to pioneer computing in the 70s, 80s, 90s. We continue to. But there was a very particular moment in history, I think, where we started to invent the home computer. And that really deeply ingrained a particular set of experiences, a particular way of thinking into how we approach pretty much everything. So you can codify an awful lot of things. And even something as simple as a BBC Micro, it went simple at the time, it might seem very simple. Mobile phones much more powerful now than any of these machines. It helped us understand what the power of computing could be, what the power of information could be. And I think it's those kind of cultural things where you don't really notice until much, much later what the significance of those events were. So looking at this commission, we were getting very fortunate, 2 weeks to respond. We get people a whole 2 weeks to get the things installed in our office. And interestingly, only one of the works is screen-based. The other 8 are all physical objects. They're all either taking in real-time data or are objects of different kinds. So I'm going to talk through some of them. So one of them is this piece by Stanza. It's a work called Body, or as it was just represented there in the binary. Hopefully this video will play. The work is a 3D scan of the artist's body, then reprinted into a form that sits in our office, and then embedded in it there's a lot of electronics. So there's LEDs and little switches and things, and it brings in real-time data from around South London near the artist's home, and it's looking at environmental information. So what are the noise levels, what are the pollution levels, and all that information is being fed back into the middle of this body in real time. So it kind of very much speaks to me as kind of the quantified self. We've got all of this ambient information around us. We've got all this information that we're exuding from our phones, from our Twitter feeds, from our social networks. And how can we relate to that? You know, it's not just something that's stuck inside a device like this. It's something that actually is pervasive around us. And so this work, I think, is quite provocative because the artist won't tell you exactly which light is being triggered at which point by which thing. So it's meant to be an experiential piece rather than some kind of didactic thing with a literal translation. And forces you to ask the question, where is this data coming from? Who's written the code? And how are they interpreting? How does that relate to that? Having this sitting right in the very center of our office encourages everybody to ask this question as they come through. It's quite a talk. There's another work here, which is again a sculpture. It's kinetic sculpture. There's a little laser, a very low-fi, low-tech thing. If you come to our office, and please do come and see the works. It's very roughly sewn together, held together with gaffer tape in places. There's a little laser, a little blue laser, and occasionally it will spring to life and draw a curve on some photoluminescent paint that's painted on this canvas here. So this is a photograph of it after it's from its little curve. And the art here fades after a certain amount of time. But what it's doing is it's visualizing the last 3,000 years worth of solar eclipse data. So going back to Chinese manuscripts, we were able to infer what the information was right the way up to NASA information from very recently. And it cycles through this and it pauses at a certain point as it's drawing this art. And as it pauses, there's a very particular type of smudge on a little mirror that makes it flare. So this little line you see here is related to the timing of that particular solar eclipse. So again, this sits in our office and sometimes it goes a little bit haywire, sometimes it has a bad day. It's developed a bit of a personality and I find it quite endearing. Sometimes it shudders a bit, forgets to draw the line, But it's embedded in it is 3,000 years worth of data. And it brings this to life in our sticks. There's another piece here that is a book. And if anyone's familiar with the Voyager spacecraft, there's a disc embedded in that, which is a recording of some of our history, some of our culture. This book is similar in concept to that. There's a cultural organisation which was actually shut down. So they encoded their cultural history into 7 copies of this book. One exists here, and will probably end up in the British Library. There's another in the Library of Congress. At the beginning of the book, it tells you how to decode the book. The book then has printed on it the encoded information. So there are sounds, there are pictures, there are videos, diagrams that you can then decode. So the cultural history of this organisation is encoded in this book. And the book is printed on acid-free paper. It's designed to last 1,000 years. So again, it raises the question of how are we going to create a cultural record of what we're doing now? How many of you have got a copy of emails that were sent to you 10 years ago, never mind 100 years ago? How would you inherit this information, pass it down through generations in a way that is meaningful and not subject to some patent or bit of technology that has to persist? Another piece here, which is a map of London, that as you'll see looks a bit strange. If you take the tube map, morph the geographic map of London onto the tube map. So what's the mental map of everybody who visits London and looks at the tube map and thinks that the tube map represents the geography? If that were the case, London would look like this. So they morph the geography to look at a different map. And I think this is a really interesting piece because apart from the vast amount of effort that's involved in trying to do this mapping, what it brings to light is if we're doing all these visualizations, if we're drawing all these maps of our data as it comes into the public sphere, who's drawing the map? What interpretations are there? Why does the tube map look exactly like it does now? And if we think that the vast majority of people who've ever been to London, not people who live here, but actually people who do live here, but every tourist who comes to London, their mental map of London is this. And the vast majority of commuters, their mental map of London is this. It brings a very different sense of whose maps do we trust. So let's take another angle. So what do we see? Where do we see this culture evolving from? So we've seen a huge grassroots movement over many years, but now governments are starting to adopt transparency, open government, open data as a very central part of their own policies. And we've seen statements from around the world. It's not just the UK or the US, it's also countries across Asia, making very significant statements about transparency. Transparency, really, the purpose of it is to try and drive some trust. We don't really trust our politicians, we don't trust our businesses. We keep reading headlines about so-and-so's squandered money here, or such and such a company is avoiding tax there. So how can we use information, how can we use this data to increase transparency and increase trust in the people that we're entrusting to run our world? I'm going to flip now between some material things that are happening out in the world and some of the works. This piece is one of the artworks that sits in the office is a newspaper that we publish every 6 weeks. And the artist there takes certain keywords, we've themed them around the economy, society, and environment. This particular one is around the environment. I'll tell you what the lines are signifying in a moment. Google have a service called text trends. You can put in 2 words and you can see the frequency of search, the number of times that people have searched for a particular term over time. So from 2003, basically over the last decade. So the x-axis, the left to right, is time over the last decade. The blue line is summer, the red line is winter. This is the number of people who've searched for summer versus the number of people who've searched for winter, and you can see the seasons emerge out of the data. When you do this with, for example, Obama versus Romney, you can predict the election results well in advance of the election. Because the number of search terms for Obama was 4 times the number of search terms for Romney. So what can we infer from this ambient information? Again, this is just the number of times the word was searched for. It's not the search results, it's not someone filling in a survey or anything like that. It's literally when you go to the search box and type in a word, that's how many people search for it. So I think, again, very interesting sense of ambient information. So when we come back and look at how is this going to impact the dozens of countries, the hundreds of cities and regions around the world that are opening data, it raises a lot of questions. And you see some interesting countries up here. Russia is there, Saudi Arabia is there, China is on the list. So what does open data mean to each of these different cultures around the world? Does it mean something to us in terms of transparency? And what kind of information do we want to make open? But it'll mean something very different to different society. It might be that here we want to get more information out of government so that we can, as a society, put checks and balances against what our political leaders are doing. In another culture, it might be, actually, we want more information about our citizens so we can track what they're doing. So there's lots and lots of questions that come out of these kind of activities. One of the things that we found is our office is just over in Shoreditch. We've got a 5,000 square foot space there. As I mentioned, we've had over 2,000 people through there in the last 6 months. And a very diverse set of people. We've had artists, as you see. We've also had the MacArthur Research Network. So these are people like the former deputy CTO, former CTO of the White House. We've got Tim O'Reilly there, who helped coin the phrase Web 2.0, and is working very actively on government. Lots of thought leaders in this space coming together. Looking at another artwork here, this is a group called Semiconductor. And what they've done is they've taken the information from the solar wind as it hits the upper atmosphere of Earth. And they've done two things with that. One of them is they've effectively tuned their radio and so you can hear it. So you can listen to, again, come to our office, listen to the sound of the solar wind hitting the upper atmosphere. And then they've taken that information and visualized it. And this is an animation. Again, you can see the video of this on the website. But they've created all of their own code to create a really rich visualization that is incredibly immersive. Actually, you sit and listen to it and watch it for a few minutes. It's really very compelling. But it gives you a sense of what's going on in our upper atmosphere. Again, taking our perceptions and saying, well, if we're absorbed in this room, very much looking down at what's happening literally above our heads. Coming back to what's happening in space, it's very much about people. We've had true hackathon events, so we've got people coming in for a weekend, developers, domain experts in health, data privacy, etc., coming together and making things. So part of this cultural development is bringing together people who never normally meet. One of the things we found is people who have domain expertise, let's say in the medical profession, may have a sense or an instinct or an understanding that there is a problem that can be solved. But when they're presented with the data, maybe there's 100 million data points. Far too big to put in a spreadsheet, far too big to really understand unless you can write code. If we bring them together with engineers are very good at solving problems. They don't necessarily know what the problems are. What we find is if you hothouse those people, even for 2 days, they can build completely new prototypes of ideas, provide new insight. And then we can take those ideas forward, but it has to involve bringing together people that have never met, combining these skills. A link to that, we find the corporate sector is joining. We've just had Virgin Media join us as a member of the ODI. And they're not just bringing some money to do some research, they're bringing data. They have all of the web traffic data from all of their users. But they don't want to just open that up because you can identify lots of individual personal data out of that. But they do want to make that information open. I think it's a really interesting idea because effectively there's a goldmine of information sitting in that, with millions of transactions a day. All of the web visits, map them all together and see trends. So what could you do with that? Well, we don't know, Virgin don't know, some ideas. But their view is, if we make this open data, then everybody can come and innovate. And if people are really successful commercially, then they might acquire them and acquire them. But if people build social value or other kinds of value with this information, then that has a social good. And it's just information that is sitting there right now being untapped. And they're not going to invest in the R&D effort to mine it themselves because of that's not their core business and partly because of the economy. Come back to another piece. This is a mural that's painted on to the different parts of our office, painted on the carpet, on the desks, on the walls. What the artist did here is they took a photograph of our space and then they transformed it into a sound and broadcast it over an analog radio system. We digitized it and then put it through another set of video processing algorithms. He gives a great 40-minute talk about every different step that he used to process that photograph. At the end, he put it into a bit of software called Conway's Game of Life, which is a little life algorithm that enables pixels to effectively form communities, live or die, based on the nature of the algorithm. And he got to a certain point with that and then froze it and projected it back into the space and painted it directly onto the carpets, the walls and so on. But you can only view this from one point in the office. If you look at it from the side, it's all extruded and so on. When you look at it from this particular point, it flattens out in the way that it's painted it into this picture, which if you have ever looked at Conway's Game of Life, this is the kind of pattern that you will see. And I think we were really delighted with this because this was a painter. He didn't describe himself as a technologist at all, although he probably did the most geeky thing of all of the artists. But having this cultural development where this is seen as relevant and seen as meaningful, I think this really captured the spirit, for me, of the kind of sentiment that was brewing in the 80s when we were all on spectrums and meters and things and so on, and really brought that home. So when all of the people who've ever kind of written code come into the office, they look at this and they immediately understand what it's about. And all the politicians who've maybe not done that in their life come and go, what is this? And so creating a conversation that helps bridge across those domains, I think that's very powerful. I think as well, coming back to what is the scale of this? It isn't about a particular sector, it isn't just about a grassroots movement, it's not just a political movement, it is about everyone. We've got Open Knowledge Foundation sitting in our office occasionally, we've got Wire Society sitting there, done a huge amount of work in the UK to really move the whole space of open data forward over the last decade. And Open Government Partnership will be coming in every Thursday to sit and just hang out and be part of the crowd that's developing there. The list of countries down the right-hand side are countries that we have talked to directly or have come to visit us. It's a long list. 6 months. We've been here for 6 months. All of these countries have expressed an interest in creating something similar in their country. I met with the Indonesian government yesterday and said, how could we create an Open Data Institute in Jakarta? I think it's fascinating. I have no idea how we do that right now, because I'm still working out how we build the first one. But what it speaks to me is that everybody is interested. And it's top-down, bottom-up, in from the commercial side, in from the academic side. It really is about everyone. And it's also about the next generation. So how do we inspire, how do we engage with and train the next generation to really get involved? Because we don't have the spectrum BBC Commodore culture. The most recent thing that I'm seeing emerge that is like that is a thing called the Raspberry Pi. I encourage you, if you have never heard of it, search for the Raspberry Pi. It's a tiny little box. There's a computer that you can program, and it costs about £40. So, giving access to everybody. We've commoditized supercomputing with cloud computing, so you can buy a supercomputer for 5 minutes. We've got things like Raspberry Pi where people can hack around with some particular devices. All the sensors on the area piece that stands on the body, he made all the sensors himself, the whole thing's operated my favourite piece in the office by Fabio and Antonio, called The Obelisk. And this is a piece that searches the web every 5 seconds. It searches about 40 different news services for specific terms. Those terms are genocide, crimes against humanity. And the material the obelisk is made of here is a smart material. It changes its opacity, changes its transparency based on the current that's flowing through. So as this little search engine goes out, it finds basically what is the temperature, how aggressive are we being as a global society. It changes the frequency of updates to each of those 4 faces, and each face represents a different term. So one face is genocide, one face is Nazi, other face is crimes against humanity. So we've got this little lighthouse sitting in the middle of our space, reminding us that there are really significant issues that we need to address. And it's framed in this very religious-looking context, which I also find fascinating, because again, you don't get to see the algorithm, you don't get to see search terms, you just get to see this flickering object. And if David Cameron has an iPad app, which is giving him a dashboard of the state of the country, I'd really like to know whose data, whose algorithms, is there a document in the code, whose visualizations, whose map is he using to do that? And we should all have the same tools ourselves. Maybe with one thought. If we help to bring all of this data into the open, not personal data, not private data, that's not open data, but if we help bring out all the environmental information, all the energy information, financial data, corporate hierarchies, corporate banking, if we bring all these things together, what can we do? Well, I think we can actually help to solve, or at least try and address some of the greatest challenges of our time. We face massive issues in population. We face massive issues in environmental sustainability. And we face massive issues in our economy. And we're not going to solve these systems level issues without joining everything together. And open data, to me, is very much about how do we combine those things and how do we make them relevant